we got a reception all right. Before we got off the LCI, the machine gun fire and his heavy machine gun was firing to the left side of the LCI. And this artillery officer and I, he was right behind me. So when I jumped up and went over on the other side of the ship, he jumped up and followed right behind me because I was supposed to be the first one off the boat because I was the scout for the platoon.
And we couldn't get close enough to the shore to get off on the land, so we had to jump off in the water. Blood was in the water, and you hit the beach, the wounded was laying there for help. Well, I tell you, when you got on land, we didn't know what to do. You couldn't think. I mean, the shell smoke was so thick, you couldn't see nothing, and guys was hollering for help. You couldn't do nothing.
When they let the ramp down, we went out and about, we were up in here, and started running, naturally, zigzagging, and it seemed like it took hours to get across that little beach. People landed on wrong beaches, and it was total confusion. And I mean, all the noise and the screaming and stuff like that. You had to get off the beach. People were yelling, "Get off of the beach!" Either you get off, or you wind up the same way.
They changed firing and started firing the opposite direction. So when the ramp went down, I went off the LCI, and I believe Major Cooper then, he was the second man or third man off. I don't know if he stayed on longer, but I didn't turn around to look. I went up the beach and fell flat on a landmine, which is an anti-tank mine. And I told the guy next to me, I said, "Move over." He said, "Why?" I said, "I'm on a landmine. I got to get off of this thing."
I mean, you're there, you want to survive, and you want your buddies to survive at the same time. You're thinking of them too. You know, we all sit down on a bench, and my buddy next to me, we were getting ready to go. I said, "Let's go," but he didn't move. They got a clean shot, you know, and that sort of shakes you up too. But you can't stop. You got to get moving.
The only thing you wanted to do was get off the beach. Get going, get off the beach. And you felt awful bad about the other ones laying there wounded, and you couldn't stop and help them. And what else can you do? Well, there for a while, we was losing so many men, we weren't getting replacements.
Well, we heard General Bradley say about midday on June the 6th that if things didn't turn around pretty quickly, he was prepared to pull all the Americans off the beach and take them back on ship, those that were still living.
We climbed over the side from cargo nets down into the LCVPs, and we saw our first dead people right after we got into the little LCVP. And the closer we got, the more they were, and when we got onto the beach, the first two regiments, the 115th and the 16th, did not know what terrible things they went through until we got there. Bodies all over the place, broken tanks, cars, vehicles, boats, whatever. And the first thing I thought was, my God, what are we getting into here?
And something you never got over with. Seeing people being killed and seeing the dead and all. It just stays with you sometime.
And you just went and made your way up, and we got up on top of the hill. We went up the draw, and the Germans had a pillbox up on that side and one on this side, shooting down on us. And the ones made it, the ones didn't.
There was a lot of boats and landing ships and whatnot in the way, and the beach was just full of dead people and dead tanks and dead LCIs.
They had a series of 5 destroyers that were on picket duty, it was called. And these guys decided, when things weren't going good around 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, that they would run these 5 destroyers single file right in at right angles to the beach, made a right turn and go right down parallel to the beach as close as the draft of the ship would allow. And they were firing their 5-inch guns right over the top of the infantry into the bluffs. And that's what broke it right there.
Once we got on land and got a foothold, then it was a little easier.
And then that gave us a little better chance of getting to the bridge without being seen and being fired on, which we did.
Our mission was to be in St. Lo, the divisions, in 7 days, and it took us 7 weeks. And we had a tough fight on those from June 6th until July 15th or 16th when we entered St. Lo. And we didn't get much sleep. That's what I remember mostly about those first 4 weeks was the lack of vitality that I had by the end of the time. And they never pulled us out of combat either. We didn't go back for showers or fresh uniforms. We stayed right there and kept going and going slowly. Some days we wouldn't make anywhere and nothing would happen. Other days we'd get something started and we'd advance maybe a mile or two, taking prisoners and shooting people up as best we could.
We started out with B Company 175th with about 200 men, and by June the 19th we were down to about 12 or 13. All 3 rifle platoons and our weapons platoon were gone. It was a terrible fight. It was a terrible thing, and it had to be done, and the people that did it were absolutely out of this world. You talk about heroes, the first ones, the 116th and the 115th, I don't see how they did it. I don't see how they ever got off the beach. Unbelievable what they went through. They didn't realize what they were doing until after, the next day we came through and saw what they had left, all their bodies and things. Unbelievable.
And I want to tell you something, freedom isn't free. So all the graves overseas and so forth, and the fellows that were wounded, they paid the supreme sacrifice, those that overseas.
We fought for our country and our country people, and above all, we fought because of our comrades that sacrificed. They're the ones that needs all the praise. They're the ones that, why I'm standing here now.
11 million men fought in that war. I was only one of them, you know. In my own division, there in Colville in France, there were almost 10,000 men buried there. And in St. James, the same thing, you know. And they all fought for these kids to have a better life, you know.
And up until 2 years ago, I didn't even talk to my wife about it. So she didn't know what I did. It was that horrible.
A lot of times I thought I'd never get home again. But some's lucky, I guess, and some's not.
It was awful. All the killing, all the people getting blown to pieces, and all that. War is hell. In fact, it's worse than hell. I hope they remember that a lot of guys gave their lives for them.
Heroes, but they gave their lives. And that's a lot to give. We are so fortunate to have the freedoms that we have. And I think, I hope these young people would cherish these freedoms.
That we're living in the greatest country in the world. I don't care who's president or whatever. They all believe in the same thing. All the fellows that lost their lives and all the fellows that were wounded, that it was not in vain, that you all will carry our tradition on and keep this country free.
Grandfathers, fathers, truly a band of brothers, a term you're familiar with. Hi, I'm George Owings, the Secretary for the Maryland Department of Veterans Affairs. The freedoms that you enjoy today were created and are alive and well because of the efforts of those heroic individuals on June the 6th, 1944. For it had not been for that, as history so richly describes, our way of life would be so different. Please, on your own, take the time to explore the rich history and the events of World War II. You owe the veterans who gave you your freedoms at least that much to keep the spirit alive. We thank you.